Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gritty Hour, Season 3, Episode Dos. And I'm here with the esteemed guest, Felice Manzi, who's been on several times in the past. And we're going to talk about the state of things today, Philly.
The state of the state.
I know you're not really an opinionated guy,
No,
but we'll try and
I force myself.
squeeze some ideas out of your head.
Okay.
All right, so how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Feeling all right?
I feel pretty good for a guy my age.
I know you're going to Florida in the next couple of days.
Going to Florida Thursday for 3 months
A little winter respite. Yeah.
that I think I deserve. I'm going to do some skeet shooting and a little beach time. Though I'm not a big beach goer, but I like warm weather. But
hmm
sit on a beach is not a big deal for me.
Nothing like wearing a t-shirt in February.
That's a true story.
Yeah. So what? How do you feel about all the goings on in the world today?
I'm confused. I got thinking about it the other day, and I'm just baffled about what's happened in the last couple 3 years. That it's like watching The Onion.
The satirical newspaper.
Yeah, it's like being on Saturday Night Live. We have $4 trillion worth of debt. Does not seem to be a concern for everybody. And $4 trillion, and I just saw last night they're going to spend $21 million to change the name of military installations that were named after Confederate generals. Now, that may be a worthwhile thing to do, but when we have $4 trillion worth of debt,
Well, it's funny, not funny. The Republican Party doesn't seem to be overly concerned about it, and the Democratic Party seems to be all about pushing money into the military to fund the Ukraine,
they're worried about the Ukrainian border, but not our border.
which is a role reversal of gigantic proportions.
I think every government department should be take a 15% cut, and every federal employee should take an 18% cut across the board. Everybody, all of them, everything.
Oh, you're winning fans left and right here on the podcast.
Well, look at we talked about this once before about the insanity of that nothing ever changes. The Department of Education was established under Jimmy Carter's administration, and every year test scores go down, and every year they get more money. So they're funding failure, and on it goes.
Yeah, I've been doing a couple episodes with teachers on that very subject. You know, being not in the education system, I'm just curious what the hell the problem is. You know.
And a lot of that COVID money that schools got, a lot of teachers went on vacation with. It was on the news last night.
Well, it seems like the parties, you know, when you resign, when you come to the realization that the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are the same party, a lot of things start to make sense.
Right.
You know?
It's to keep your mind off the fact that they're just printing money, and the end it has to be near.
Has to be nearer.
Yeah. When no society, no country in the world ever printed. You know that Janet Yellen a year ago, she said this inflation was a surprise to her. They're printing money, and they stopped drilling for oil. I was a cement mason, and it wasn't a surprise to me. How did it catch her off guard? She's the boss here. She's a smart lady.
Well, she eats the cornflakes while she's reading the paper, so she might have missed an article or two. You know.
This came as a surprise to me.
Yes.
Yeah, you stopped the XL pipeline, and you stopped handing out oil permits, and you started printing money, and inflation set in. Whoopee!
Yes, it doesn't take a mathematical genius or an economist to figure it out.
Right.
The causes of the inflation. But,
and have our immigration laws been revoked?
No, they're being circumvented, but they haven't been revoked.
5 million people. Nobody has a physical. Nobody's is vetted. They're coming from 120 different countries. What are your chances that out of 4 million people, there's some people that are coming here that want to bring harm to America? You say that's a fair amount?
I read the other day, I don't know the validity of it, but apparently some Russian men flew to Mexico, somehow got to Mexico and tried to get over the border through Mexico
Guys are trying to avoid,
from Russia,
they're trying to avoid going in the army.
avoiding the conscription.
Yeah,
Now, we had it easy. All you had to do was walk to Canada. These poor bastards have to fly halfway around the
we're
world.
probably gonna give them that money they spent. If they show a legitimate ticket, we'll reimburse them.
And there you go. Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not to get you off track. I know you have things you want to talk about, but I'm astounded at how bad the Russian army is.
Well, you know what I think it is? There's so much corruption in the Soviet, in Russia,
Hmm.
that money that was supposed to be for carburetors for their tanks got diverted to some oligarch's yacht. That's what I think's happened in Russia. It's so corrupt.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes us look good.
makes them a paper tiger, really. I know.
Not good at all. Not nobody wants to be there. The conscripts don't want to fight. And they say they're tracing a lot of these guys through their cell phones.
If they're taking T-72s out of mothballs, you can ask the Iraqis how good the T-72 is versus the M1 Abrams.
Not a match.
Not really. No.
It was a good match against the Sherman tanks in the Second World War, but they failed. They have faltered since.
Well, they didn't really fight against the Shermans.
Yeah, I think it's
They
just,
would have if Patton had his way, but yeah.
I think it's just a lot of corruption in the Soviet Union. Money is being stolen. It's not going to where it's directed. And
Yeah. Can you say that's not the case here?
well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of corruption in obviously in this country.
Yes. Any government that spends money on anything will have corruption attached to it.
Yeah, because it's you work for the government. Your boss is not really your boss because he's not paying you.
He's not paying you the money he earned.
Right.
Yeah.
He's your pal.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's have a barbecue Friday.
Mhm.
Nobody can't come to work. We'll figure it out. Because it's not really anybody's money.
It's not really his money he's paying you with.
Exactly right.
It's your money.
And that's whether it's a town, a village, a county, state, anything.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Great countries come and great countries go. And my nephew tells me, Uncle, you're old and you're carrying the sign, the end is near. I try to stay away from that, but I think we're in a lot of trouble. I think there's if you look, you Google these FBI head of these FBI agents, head of the CIA, they're worth $20-30 million. They got $160,000 job and they're worth $14 million.
Hmm.
The head of the FBI is worth $23 million.
Yeah.
General Milley, and who's the head of the Joint Chiefs, and Lloyd Austin, Department
Of defense.
of Defense, left $81 billion worth of military hardware in Afghanistan. If a Lance Corporal in the Marine Corps lost his M14 or his M16, he'd be court-martialed.
Hmm.
So I think somebody got paid to leave that there.
Oh yeah.
Somebody's got a Swiss bank account with maybe 15 cents on the dollar, which is still a lot of money.
It's the military-industrial complex.
Yes.
You leave $81 billion worth of armaments behind, you're gonna have to replace that.
Correct.
You gotta make it again.
Right. And the only thing worse than that is the environmental industrial complex.
It's getting there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I hate to be a cynic, but I think I'm a realist.
Yeah. No, everything you're saying makes sense. There's a lot of confusion on purpose out there. It's funny. I heard the other day somebody say somewhere, you're getting bombarded with so much information. This stuck out. She said she was looking for the day when politics was boring again and nobody cared.
Like Eisenhower's.
But now it's like a national pastime. People care more about politics than they do about baseball and football now.
Yeah. Remember the joke in the 50s when the Eisenhower dial, you wind it up, it does nothing for 8 years. That was it.
Oh yeah.
I remember that
I'm
joke.
proud to say I wasn't around during the Eisenhower
I
administration.
remember that joke when I was a kid because my father, didn't like, my father was a Democrat. He didn't like Eisenhower, but I thought Eisenhower was a good general. I thought he was a good president. But
Well, it was hard to not have a good 8-year stretch considering the position we were in post-World War II.
everybody was making money in the 50s.
Well, sure, you know,
Great time, construction. Everybody worked.
but you have to consider where we were as a nation, you know, where Europe was as a nation, as a collective over there in other parts of the world. In Asia, this was the only country that was stable enough to have a good economy.
Yeah.
You know,
And then
we were the chief exporter of everything, including money to Europe to rebuild Europe. I always get a kick out of the fact that, you know, you get a strong wind here in Millbrook, New York, and the power goes out. But all the lines, since they had to rebuild Europe under the Marshall Plan that the American taxpayer predominantly paid for, all the lines are buried. It would cost a fortune to bury the lines here.
right, and America has been taking care of Europe's defense for the last 50 years. And people say, geez, I saw a thing on in France, boy, beautiful new buses and trains. That's because they don't spend any money on their defense. We take care of their defense. We would have nice buses too.
Yeah. Oh, we got nice buses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When's the last time you were on a bus?
I haven't been on a bus in probably 35 years.
I took a bus from Chris, Corpus Christi, Texas to Memphis, Tennessee.
Mhm.
Gee, it was like being in a gulag. God almighty.
So usually we record our podcasts around 5 o'clock at night, 5:30 at night.
Right.
And here we are at the break of dawn. So I'm having my coffee, and I'm not maybe not as
Alert.
alert as I usually are.
Well, we had to bump it up because of my Florida departure.
You're going to Florida. That's well worth getting up, you know.
I have to, my friend.
See, I'm a morning, and like my friend Mike said the other day, I'm a morning person as long as it starts at around noon.
I get more things done if I get up early. But
Well, it's all right. There's nothing wrong. The early bird catches the worm.
that's what you're saying.
I like paying people to go get that worm for me.
That's another good thought.
Yeah. So what else is on your mind? I distracted you with the Ukraine.
No,
Mr.
when did they pass a law that money didn't have to be paid back? And when was shoplifting made not a crime?
Mm-hmm.
A couple other things in the news lately.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kids just go in stores and grab stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See that guy in Louisiana shot that kid? He had a toy gun, came in a restaurant robbing people.
Yeah.
And then he shot the guy
That was in Texas.
Texas?
Yeah.
He shot the guy 9 times and then took the money out of his pocket and gave it back to the people.
Yeah. Saw that. Mm-hmm.
More of that. People would think about robbing people in restaurants.
Well, this is what happens when you don't prosecute crimes and you tolerate. I said this to you one of the first times you were on this podcast, 60, 70 years ago. Defining Deviancy Down by Patrick Moynihan. It's
Yes.
well worth the read.
I read it.
Yeah.
And you know, my sister was in a restaurant in Boston. This was in the maybe this late 60s, early 70s. Guys came in with shotguns and robbed everybody in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I think they were mobsters, though. They weren't young kids just looking for drug money.
Or whatever the motivation, the results are the same.
Yeah.
You know. But so former Vice President Joe Biden went down to the border recently.
He did?
He's as we're recording, what time is it, 5:30 in the morning? Or 10:30? He's down in Mexico as we're recording. Godspeed to him. And I noticed they cleaned out El Paso in anticipation of his arrival down there.
They had to clean up before he went there.
They cleaned out everyone. They were all in the church praying that they won't get expeditedly sent back. And sure enough, the streets are empty in El Paso.
It doesn't ring real true. That's my friend in Florida.
Neither is your phone.
They send a crew down there to clean up, and then he goes down and he makes a stunt. It's like Saturday Night Live.
He didn't see any of the migrants down there. He didn't see any of the illegal aliens.
Hey Ray, I got to call you back. Sorry. Okay, I'll call you back in about 20 minutes. Thank you.
Now he's got to sign releases on the podcast.
That's my friend down in FLA, Ray Gallo from,
Is he picking you up at the airport?
no, my friend Hugh was picking me up. This guy's from Illinois, was a union coal miner
Mm-hmm.
most of his life.
Yeah.
And now he worked in a refinery. But where were we?
Talking about former Vice President Joe Biden going down the border. Now he's on the other side of the border in Mexico.
I'm sure he has his finger right on the pulse.
He's probably begging somebody down there to stop the pedestrians coming up.
I really don't think he knows this is going on. You know, Joe Biden was a moderate, but you know, he's been in there for 50 years. He must have had some sort of charisma. He must have had something to stay in office for 50 years. I don't see it. Correct?
Well, the people in Delaware seem to like him. That's where they voted him over and over again.
But I don't think he was not. This agenda that he's pushing now is a socialist agenda. I don't think he's aware of it. Democrats are socialists. Socialists are Marxists. The only difference between a socialist and a Marxist is a timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Ask anybody that claims to be a socialist. Ask them to name one product that came to market in a socialist economy. One product.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't any.
Sputnik.
Except the AK-47.
Sputnik.
Sputnik. Well, that wasn't a big consumer item.
No.
Correct?
It made a splash.
Made a splash, but
Yeah.
no, not any products. Photography, television, radio, all came through free market capitalism.
Yes.
And no socialist can argue with that.
No.
Socialism is false equity.
Well, who really would work voluntarily, you know? You have to have incentive to get up out of bed and go to work. Usually hunger is a good incentive.
To eat is
or
stay
getting
warm.
wet when it rains, that kind of thing.
You know, and look what the third most powerful office in America did after Trump finished his first State of the Union address. She stood behind him and ripped it up.
Yeah.
Was that unity? Was that bringing the country together? The
No.
third most powerful person in our government.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was a show of
Stupidity.
it was just grandstanding, whatever you want to call it.
I just found that, and then you hear her talk about unity. We have to bring the country together.
Yeah.
Bizarro world.
It is indeed. But she's
very powerful lady, or was.
She's an old soldier, hopefully in the process of fading away.
Well, let's hope so, as MacArthur said, right?
Yeah. So, what else is going on?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I'm worried for I don't have children, but I'm worried about my nieces and nephews. I think the country's in trouble, but great countries last 250, 300 years, and then they die from within, and I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, we have a lot of things going for us, though.
Oh, I hope you're right. I hope you're right, and I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm. It's we're the best dream man has ever dreamed, as Randy Newman said.
I think you're right, but I think it seems that everybody is just grabbing as much as they can because they know the curtain's coming down.
Yeah. Well, yesterday I happened to I'm trying to catch up to that Artemis, that mission around the moon and back.
I'm not familiar with that.
That rocket they sent around the moon.
Okay.
Didn't make much news because we already been on the moon. But they want to send people back to the moon in a couple of years. Well, that's the point I wanted to make, was they had all these plans for sending a manned spacecraft in 2 years around the moon. Why? I don't know. They already landed on the moon, as they say. And then eventually build a space station on the moon that they can launch stuff deeper into space.
I think it's a fine thing to do.
But the point I'm making is they have plans for the future, So somebody thinks there's a future.
I think, yeah, well, yeah, obviously, I think it's a fine thing to do if we didn't have $30 trillion worth of debt. It's a great plan, not to borrow money. I think it's great to have a field of a Department of Interior, not when we have this much debt.
hmm Department of Interior does a lot of work, though. They maintain Gettysburg National Park.
And I bet you everybody that works there is overpaid.
I don't know.
I'm sure all these people do things, but we're borrowing money to do them, which doesn't make.
Saying someone's overpaid is relative,
I know.
You ask the person who's getting the paycheck if he's overpaid, and he might have a differing opinion, But in the government, there's money well spent and there's money flitted away.
Yes.
Yeah.
You look at FEMA. I think FEMA was more productive when neighbors and churches were FEMA. Every time you see a guy on FEMA filling up a generator, there's 5 guys in Washington ordering gas cans,
Uh-huh.
spark plugs. FEMA used to be done by churches and neighbors.
You mean the charity, the
Right.
disaster recoveries?
Right.
Yeah.
Now there's a whole bureaucracy.
Well, the government, yeah. The government has many tentacles, and they're in many things that I believe they shouldn't be involved in.
When did the FBI start
being politicized?
Picking who should be president?
Yeah, what do you think of the Twitter files that have been coming out recently? It seems there was definitely people in the Justice Department, the FBI specifically, that were in cahoots with people that worked at Twitter to get, seems like, conservative voices stifled on Twitter. Namely, the New York Post, a major newspaper in the United States, for a month, 6 weeks before the election, 2 months before the election,
Right.
they had their account closed.
Yeah. Trump, no American GIs died under Trump. That peace is not good for the military-industrial complex. Missiles are good for the military-industrial complex. If you go back and look at these senators and Congress people, how many their stock portfolio in General Dynamics.
Yeah, they all get rich. Yeah.
It was scary. So they had to get rid of Trump. Trump was not good for the.
Well, it doesn't seem like a lot of people. I mean, even the Twitter files are reaching the mainstream media for what mainstream media is worth, which isn't much nowadays. But even some of the Twitter files came out into the mainstream media. Not all of them. They still stifle some of them. They don't really push pedal to the metal on the FBI thing, getting involved in Twitter and other social media outlets. But it doesn't seem anybody's willing to make that grand leap. Well, if they are capable of doing that, stifling in a major national paper and other groups, can they rig an election? No one seems to want to take that next step. Like, you're an idiot if you think he won that election legitimately.
When did election day become election month?
All right.
The Republicans haven't won an election since it's become election month.
Yeah.
And if you look at these FBI guys, these CIA guys, a lot of them at one time or another work for General Dynamics, Raytheon, all these big.
The scary thing, though, is even if this information does trickle into the mainstream media about the Twitter files, they're not willing to take that extra step. Well, if a government agency is willing to do that, can a government agency like the FBI rig an election?
Mm-hmm.
No one wants to ask that question in the mainstream because they've already set up all of these false flags. You're a radical if you think the election was fixed. I mean, I think the election was fixed.
Of course it was.
I think Dewey defeated Truman. I think Nixon defeated Kennedy.
Yes.
I think Gore defeated Bush.
But you don't
all
see
things being equal. But anyway, the point I'm making is, I think they just assumed he wasn't going to win in 2016, and was shocked when he did. And then they made damn sure he didn't win in 2020.
It was supposed to be 8 years of Obama and then 8 years of Hillary.
Mhm.
And along comes Trump, the
Mhm.
cement mason from Queens, and blows everything apart. The Marxists would have been so entrenched after 16 years of those two, nothing would have been rectified.
Well, you already know I'm not a big Trump fan. So I object to him being called a cement mason. I don't think he ever got his hands dirty, ever.
Well, I'm not. I think Trump is done. I think he's over. I think he should be the kingmaker, not the king. I think he should support DeSantis. He's too old. It's done. He's too easy of a guy to
Well, if
dislike.
he's too old and he's 5 years younger than former Vice President Biden, then what makes Biden?
Biden's an invalid.
He's going to be 82.
He's an invalid.
Yeah.
He doesn't know where the bathroom is. Come on. He's got to go, and I think Trump and I want Trump to do the same thing. I like his programs.
What I love about you is you're not willing to be too harsh.
Well, don't you? Look at, he did a good job. He made NATO pay their fair share. No Marines lost their legs. He black, Hispanic, all the employment records were up. He did a good job, but he's not presidential. He's a
blowhard. But he did surround himself with capable people in his administration.
He's what they call an Italian a gabon.
Mm-hmm.
But I like what he did. If he runs, if he gets the nomination, I'll vote for him. I hope he doesn't get the nomination.
I understand that.
I think DeSantis is the guy.
Yeah. How do you like Ron Paul, by the way?
I like Ron Paul. I think he's a bright guy. I think he's considered a what is he?
Libertarian.
Libertarian.
But he caucuses with he's a Republican.
Yeah. Yeah. I like him a lot.
Mm-hmm. But he's a Republican the way Bernie Sanders is a Democrat. He's basically a libertarian that hangs out in the Republican Party.
You notice that Bernie Sanders never says anything bad about millionaires. He always uses billionaires because he's now a millionaire. So he's very careful when it comes to that. Well, these billionaires.
Yeah, you are. Yeah. I think he's done too. I don't know how old he is, but
I think so. And Joe Biden's going to run again.
Well, the last I heard, he might be dumping Kamala Harris in favor of either Hillary or Michelle Obama or somebody.
Or Pete Buttigieg.
Yeah. So
I think a lot of people like Mrs. Obama.
Mm-hmm.
I know she
has a good following. I don't know how
confident she is.
Well, politically, obviously, let's face it, being a first lady is a political position also.
Mm-hmm.
You're advancing your husband's agenda or your spouse's agenda. So I guess she has some experience, but she does have there is a lot of people that like her. So it's probably not the worst move, but I mean, the guy's going to be 82 in 2024.
He's Shabid. You know what Shabid means? No. Shabid means in Italian when you're baptized.
I'm not even sure what Gabon means.
The Gabon's a guy from the mountains, a goober. But you know, when you're baptized, they put salt on you, and like she didn't get enough salt put on her, so she's Shabid. She's not quite ready.
Not quite ready. Yeah.
That's what Italians would say. When some food is not right, they would say it's a Shabid. It needs a little salt.
Well, you asked me the other day, how did we get to where we are in such a short period of time as a country? Where parents are they're trying to fight for their kids and against these school boards all around the country. You have issues that are nonsensical being fought out in the public discourse, and the real problems, like you started out, the thing with the deficit, are not being talked about.
Seems like we were a normal country 30, 40 years ago.
Well, yeah.
And now it's absolutely
normal
cool.
In a relative sense.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Look, I think there's two genders. Call me crazy. I'm for borders. If you don't have a border, you don't have a country. You just can't have 92 languages in a country. You can't. That's Googleville.
Well, they have two in Canada. They get along pretty good.
Yeah, they fight a lot too. The French speakers and
English speakers.
English speakers. But I don't know. It seems like when 40 years ago, when 50 years ago, when I got in the Navy, the world was fairly normal. Now there's this buying it this I don't even understand this transgender thing. I don't understand why. I saw a guy on television the other day. His wife took their son away. She wants to have him chemically castrated, and he's trying to stop it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you cut your dauber off, there's something the matter with you. If you cut your finger off 50 years ago, they put you in the Hudson River. That guy, that guy was a triathlon. What's his name in California? Not the Kardashian, but the father there. He cut his dick off. That's
Yes.
Cuckooville.
Yeah. Well, he was on a Wheaties box. Maybe you can tie it all to Wheaties somehow.
I don't know. It baffles me. I don't. Now they say there's 25 different genders. I mean,
Being that it's 1:30 in the morning, I can't think of the guy's name.
Bruce Jenner.
Bruce Jenner, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's become a poster boy for whatever. Poster girl, I guess.
Did I ever tell you this? 10 years ago, I drove down Manhattan, parked in a parking garage. I had about 4 block walk to. I was meeting a guy to shoot a game of pool up on the upper west side. And a young girl stops me and said, "Excuse me, sir, I'm doing an interview. Can you tell me what do you think about same-sex marriage?" And I said, "Well, I don't care what people do, but I think I don't believe that same-sex people should be married. When they together, what do they want to do? I don't care. It's none of my business." So before I got to the next block, another girl stopped me. Then I noticed there was 2 or 3 of these girls on every corner. So when I got to the pool, I had about a 10-minute wait. And so the girl said to me, "Do you believe in same-sex marriage?" I said, "No." I said, "Do you believe in brothers marrying sisters?" She said, "Well, that's kind of weird." "Well, yeah." I said, "Do you believe in 45-year-old men marrying 12-year-old boys?" She said, "Well, no." I said, "Well, I believe 6,000 years of Judeo-Christian beliefs that men married women.
Mhm.
But you don't believe in men marrying boys. What's the matter with you? You stuck a mud in the stick, or what do they call it?" I said,
Well,
what if they love each other?"
don't you think same-sex couples should be subjected to the same trials as heterosexual couples?
I don't know. But my point was, then a guy come over and said to
I'd
the
love
girl,
to know the divorce rate in same-sex relationships, the marriages.
good point.
I'd love to know if it's consistent with heterosexual ones or not.
Probably the
Just
same.
curious.
But a guy came over and said to me, to the girl, "Is he bothering you?" I said, "I just asked her a couple of questions." So this guy had all these,
Well, every corner covered,
yes,
Yes.
and there was one guy that was
orchestrating the whole thing.
like a pimp and was telling these
Okay.
girls what to do.
hmm
And I said, "Jesus."
And where was this? Upper West Side?
Upper West Side, this was maybe 12, 13, 14 years ago.
Well, your opinion, I don't want to make generalities, but I think your opinion would probably be predestined. Your poll results, if you pick a specific neighborhood like that.
Yeah, maybe that's what they're looking for. But
hmm
the whole thing confuses me. Are there more people that are born male and should have been female, or the other now than there were 30, 40 years ago?
Mm. Well, I guess if you want my opinion, you didn't ask for it, but
I'll take it.
it falls under the same, whatever floats your boat. If you think you were a female, go for it. But I just think what I object to is the indoctrination to people underage
Right.
to this subject matter. You have to be old enough to be consensual enough to make your own decision. However, you become an adult and you feel like you were a man, you felt like should be a woman, go for it.
Who cares?
The hell do I care?
Right.
This has nothing to do with me whatsoever.
It seems to me that the same-sex marriage is just the opening salvo. What I think these people really want is lowering the age of consent. That's what I think is the motivator. I could be wrong.
I hope you are, But I see all these school boards, all these parents around the country, all different parts of the country going to these school boards to, you have to, what the real question is, you have to figure out why these people are running for school board and why do they want to be on the school board? Do they have a kid in the school, or do they have an agenda they want to put into the school? Then it's a conspiracy.
Yeah.
If it's just, Joe Smith has a son in grammar school, so we want to try to be on the school board, that makes sense. But, if some of these people in the school board don't have kids in the school, you have to ask yourself why the hell you want to be a school board member.
I'm just glad that I'm on me way out, not on me way in.
Yeah, when I put something down, it rolls now.
I don't know, like I said, I don't have children, but the world is confusing.
Yeah, I feel bad because I certainly wouldn't want to be a teenager in this society. Not just about what we were just talking about, but everything, But it just, in terms of what we just talked about, why the hell does anybody care? If someone becomes a man who was a woman, or someone's a woman becomes a man, or did I just say the same thing twice?
I don't care.
But the point is, does it diminish your life at all?
No.
So it shouldn't be anybody's concern except for the person doing the
It is baffling, but it doesn't concern me.
Right. That's the way I look at it.
What you eat doesn't move my bowels. So
what an analogy. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't really care.
Yeah.
I'm just,
You're blessed to live in this country, Philly. That's my opinion.
I am blessed to live in this country, and I was blessed to be born and brought up in a little place like Millbrook, New York.
I would rather be in this country for all its faults than any place else in the world.
I've been in 35 countries, and I'd rather be here.
Yeah. You're going to Florida. You're missing the winter. I'll be out here with the aerosol can trying to keep it warm.
Yeah.
And you're going down there in the t-shirt.
You're welcome to come down in for a couple of days.
Not too long, all right? Pack a small bag.
I have a two-bedroom condominium.
Well, someone's got to hold the fort down here in the state of New York,
That's your job, mister.
Yeah.
I'll be checking in on you.
Mm-hmm. So, well, I do wish you Godspeed. Have a good trip. Enjoy yourself. I know this is sort of an abbreviated thing, but did you get everything off your chest that you wanted?
Those things have been, those questions have been nagging me for a couple of days.
You got it off your chest?
And I wrote them down because
I want you to go to Florida unburdened.
I'm unburdened, but I always feel better after talking to you, especially when you tell me that it doesn't matter because there's no difference between Democrats and Republicans.
I think once you come to that realization, and God bless the Democrats and the Republicans, but you're in the same party, you don't even know it.
George Wallace said there's not a nickel's worth of difference between the two of them.
Who said that?
George Wallace.
Oh yeah, that was a hell of a long time ago.
He ran for president in the 60s, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He was the governor of Alabama, some southern, I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in Mississippi in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And on that civil rights search, and it was really bizarre. I mean, it was.
You searched for the 4 people that were murdered.
I think there were Cheney, Goodwin, and there were 3 or 4 guys, a couple of black guys and a couple of guys from New York that were murdered in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And there were billboards, be a man, join the Klan on highways.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the tail end of that. And I was in Memphis. I went to high school in Memphis, and it was just.
Well, what do you think about these You said in the beginning of this podcast they want to tear down the Confederate, rename
bases,
change the names from Democrat.
That's fine.
From Confederate generals.
I think it's fine, but not when we have.
They did lose the war, though.
Yeah, but take them down, but not when we're in $30 trillion worth of debt.
Well, does it cost money to change the name?
$21 million.
To change the name?
Well, don't forget, they got to change the actual sign, then they got to change the stationery, then they got to change,
Yeah.
and it's done by government people who,
Fort, what's the guy's name now? It's only, what time is it? 3:30 in the morning?
yeah,
Somebody, what the hell was his name? Out in, Fort,
Fort Sam Houston, Fort
no.
Bragg.
Well, Sam Houston was, Texas-Mexican War, right?
Yeah, Fort Bragg is one of the, but there's a lot of them.
Yeah, General Bragg, yes. Confederate General Bragg, that's the one.
You're a Civil War buff, so yeah. So that's what they estimate the cost will be. It'll probably be a $22 million overrun too. So it'll probably be.
I can't tell you how much I hate the word buff. Civil War buff.
Is that a bad word?
Yeah, to me it's like there's certain words that drive me up the wall.
Is that right?
Buff.
I'll never use it again. I'll
Clerk.
tell you that, man.
I hate the word clerk.
Huh.
Hate the word buff.
A Civil War enthusiast.
God bless you.
I'll never use it again.
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not offended by it. It's one of those words that get under my skin.
I understand.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were my psychologist. It's only 5:30 in the
Well,
morning.
it's not. If they're the only things that bother you, that's not too bad.
No, there's a lot of words that bug me, but clerk and buff, yeah. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get another cup of coffee, and
Would you
I have the entire day in front of me now.
would you like me to take you to lunch? I'd be more than happy to buy you lunch.
Usually, I wrap up a podcast and then I go have dinner.
We could go to Nuccia's.
Now I have the whole day in front of me.
I was going to take my nephew,
Well,
but
I don't think the people care where we're going to lunch.
Okay.
We'll wrap it up.
Okay.
And I hope you have a great trip, Philly Manzi.
I appreciate
And
it.
we'll have you back on the show when you get back,
Thank you, sir.
which would probably be well into the spring by the time you come back.
Okay. It's my pleasure.
Yeah.